Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time podcast with Mike and Laurent. It is Tuesday, September 7th. Wow. In this episode, the international break takes too long. The U.S. men's national team are terrible. But first, Mike, let me ask you something. Have you ever had to escape from a coup?
A coup. Well, I left New York to go to Florida. I feel like that should probably count at this point. But man, what a scene in CONMEBOL this weekend. Obviously, I was
the coup and CONMEBOL. There were two.
And yeah, we're right. Yeah, in Africa as well. But I want to start with Argentina Brazil because those are two headliners, right?
Yeah.
I was watching mostly college football this weekend. I was enjoying myself, and I saw all of these things. So there's a big Tottenham contingent on Argentina, or
Yes.
Historically there usually is. So I always keep an eye on them. And lo and behold, there were 4 Premier League players that showed up for Argentina. Now, the way that the Premier League handled this break,
let's go through it though. Emmy Martinez from Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Lo
Emiliano,
Celso, your
Buendia.
midfielder. Buendia from Norwich, and one other guy.
Cristian Romero, our new big signing.
Cristian Romero, your new defender. Right.
So the way that the Premier League teams, for the most part, have handled this international break is frankly how I wish they handled most international breaks.
They tried to pull rank.
Right. And they're like, we're not fucking sending you our players, which, by the way, most of the Big Six does most of the time. They're like, oh, sorry, he's nursing a knee injury. He can't go. But this specific international break is slightly more important than the average one because it was the start.
World Cup qualifier.
These are the start of the World Cup qualifiers, right? So you want to get off to a good start.
The other piece that's big about this, sorry to interrupt, is they're cramming them in. They're doing 3 over a 2-week break. So just another piece. So more COVID still wreaking havoc.
Yeah, totally. And so, right, like you mentioned, the extra game in the 2-week period, this is a big deal. And so if you get off to a slow start, look, 4 years ago, we saw the Netherlands, Italy, the United States, obviously. There were a handful of like big money, like big name nations, Chile. That's 4 right there that you're like, oh, these are borderline world powers. None of them were in Russia for the World Cup. So every game really matters to these teams, especially like you said, especially in South America and some of these hotly contested, areas and FIFA federations, if you will. So a lot of emphasis on those, these early games. But as you said, COVID's still wreaking havoc in more ways than one. There are a handful of countries, probably a lot of countries, that are considered red zones using like the old George Bush threat level, right? So
but it is political. Like you put us on yours, we put yours on ours, right?
Completely.
Like, England is in really good shape. They just had the fucking Euros. Compared to Brazil, where they had the Copa, but they shouldn't have. They
didn't really have that many fans.
They have no fans, right? They
had like a very few amount,
right? And then the whole thing with who's going, who's not going, vaccinated, not vaccinated. So the contingency of the English players, they probably all fly together. Honestly, like all these guys,
this 4 they did.
Yeah, they fly to South America 3 days before they're there practicing. The federations of Brazil and of each country of Brazil and Argentina are like, oh, we just did this for the Copa. It's fine. We have a dispensation. We're cool with it. Yeah. CONMEBOL's like, we're cool. This is all good. We're cleared for last time.
Let me jump in real quick.
Right.
This is one of these things where like these people matter more in the world. So whatever restrictions that you or I might have coming from England to Brazil or vice versa, they don't apply. Until they sort of do, right?
Right. So in the context of this, Brazil just lost like 60 days ago, not even 30 days ago, in the Copa. Now, the authorities that are outside of the soccer world have decided after the game has started to stop.
No, because there was things going on before the game, the day before the game. What they effectively said was that those 4 players, Romero, Celso, Buendia, and Martinez, all 4 of which should frankly start for Argentina. Buendia did not in this game, so 3 out of 4, had breached the quarantine rules. Now, I don't even know what they were.
10 days.
Sure, but you know what? It's a moving target at this point. They can make it up as they fucking go along. And so they say that these players had breached the quarantine rules. How Lionel Messi didn't beats the shit out of me,
because he wasn't coming from England.
But he was coming from England's neighbor. So like whatever. So I mean, they're making it up as they go along. They are trying to hurt Argentina, who, like you mentioned, just beat them in the Copa. Because this is bigger than the Copa, frankly, almost. It's not bigger than the final, but it's a big World Cup qualifier. And if you beat your rival, you have a huge leg up. So whatever.
Yeah, I don't think it's nefarious.
There's hijinks.
I think it's just bureaucrats being bureaucratic to do something stupid that just make themselves look incompetent because some guy realized people knew who these guys were and was like, oh shit, someone gave me this job and I'm supposed to do it. And if I don't, they'll know that I don't do it, even though I never do it. Right. So there's police on the field. There's hijinks. There's Messi going, what the fuck are you people doing here?
Well, and so we're
about to play.
Well, no. That's the point. And Messi said this to the referees and so 8 minutes into the game, just after the 7 minutes goes to 8, you see health officials and like police and federal police running onto the field. Yeah, whatever the fuck they have in Brazil, which is basically stormtroopers, I assume. They running onto the field and they stop the game and they basically separate all the players. Now, it doesn't take much for it to pop off between Argentina and Brazil. So, and actually, I was watching the highlights. There were a couple, as this happens as well, between these two teams who hate each other, a couple of hard tackles just in the first 5 minutes. Yeah. No yellow cards or anything, but it was gonna get to be a pretty fun game.
Normal CONMEBOL.
Normal CONMEBOL, normal Argentina Brazil, and so they're there 3 days. This is not necessarily that thing, and that's what Messi goes up to them and goes, whoa. You waited until the game was underway. Why are you? We were here for 3 days. What are you doing? And so that's where it all kind of gets confusing, gets ridiculous. They separate the teams. They basically call the game off.
Yep.
Brazil goes home. Argentina was stuck in the stadium for hours. Now, the interesting thing about this is that most Premier League teams were not letting their players go. And that was true. And so you have 2 players, like we said, from Villa and 2 players from Tottenham. I can't speak for Martinez or Buendia, but Celso and Romero, they were not okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. If a player is called up to their national team and the team does not release them, they are fined from FIFA, I believe.
Yeah, you can get in trouble.
Okay.
Something happens.
And so, but there are ways around it, obviously, and many of the top 6 in England do this frequently and whatever. But fine.
Most guys, especially the South American, they want to play.
The South Americans especially, right? And because it's World Cup qualifiers.
It's an honor. It's a big deal. If you don't go, you are a pariah. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you here? Yeah.
And players like Lo Celso and Romero, who are if Messi's like, I got a headache, leave me the fuck alone. I'll see you next time. They're like, okay, no big deal. But they are trying to cement their spot in this Argentina team. And so Tottenham doesn't give their blessing, so to speak. And it's one of those sort of, depending on who you listen to, but they don't say no because they don't want to get fined. Because that's all Daniel Levy, right? And so they go. And this all happens. Now, what I understand is going to happen is they're already on a flight back to London. And if they're not
going
to
have to be 10 days of quarantine again.
They already knew that. And that's why Tottenham didn't want them to go, but they were going to be like, can you just sit this one the fuck out? But so they didn't outwardly say it. But so now they're going to miss, I don't know if it's 10 or 14 days, to be honest, but they're going to miss the next game for Spurs, which neither has featured so far. Lo Celso has had some like sub appearances, but nothing crazy. And so they are also going to be fined for basically going against the team's wishes. The players will be. Whatever that means to them, fine. But yeah, it's interesting.
The bigger issue is they have to reschedule. They're going to have to find a way to do it. We're going to live in these COVID rules that are so different. I mean, like, you think that states in the US are having fucking different rules.
Yeah.
Like, if in Australia, the whole thing's locked down, they have less cases than like
Australia has
the best. They have less cases than the best version of the US, and they beat people up in the street for not wearing masks. Like, it's gone crazy. Like, I'm open to however you feel about it. I'm like, I got vaccinated. I did my thing. I'm not doing anything more. I'll get more shots. Give me Sputnik. Give me the Chinese one. Give me all of them. I don't care. I don't want to wear a mask and I want to go do my stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so that sounded bad and sounded poor and sounded crushing. But then we have the African conference where things got a little bit more weird.
Yeah.
This is not COVID stupid shit. This is the country of Guinea has a fucking military coup in the day that
The game
Guinea is supposed to play Morocco, and Guinea players can't leave. They're stuck there. Why does this matter? Because Naby Keita of Liverpool is from Guinea, and he was there, and he's stuck there. If you don't know where Guinea is, I had to go look it up. It's one of the many, many West African countries. So Burkina Faso and Cameroon and Nigeria. And
I'm going to pretend like I have a cursory knowledge of African geography. I was like, oh yeah, no, I know where Guinea is.
That whole area of the West Africa, Sub-Sahara, that whole zone, where Africa sort of kicks out. It's where all the countries are. It's all the good football teams are. Near Ghana, it's that whole zone. The side that's closest to South America. Anyway, if you played Risk, you could attack the other country. Or if you had U-boats in World War II, you could just hide them down there.
You certainly could.
Yeah. If we need to do a wolf pack, take out the transports. All these games I played, that's a World War II adjacent reference.
I like it. It counts.
Yeah,
we'll put it on the board.
We'll take it. But they're stuck there. Apparently, Liverpool is in communications with them. But the Moroccan team took some video out of their bus. And that was crazy because people were throwing shit at their bus, just people yelling, just mad, just like, hey, we were going to do football. But, for Africa, this is a kind of normal scene. Famously, Bradley, the coach of LAFC, got stuck in Egypt when he was the coach of the national team. Bob
during
Bradley,
the Civil War.
During the Arab Spring, that went really well for us. That we thought everything was going to change, but not so much.
Well, I remember him saying, speaking of Bob Bradley, he was managing Egypt during the World Cup qualifying campaign, and what he said was, he's like, it's absurd, like the carnage and all that stuff. But it sort of puts sport in perspective, but also it's like, you fucking mutants. Like the only time they were able to managed to stop killing each other was during Egypt football matches. Yeah. And
where they do have riots in the stands as well.
Sure. So it wasn't all, lovey-dovey, but like they all came together because they all wanted the same thing, right? He was under the impression that if Egypt could qualify for the World Cup, it might go a long way to like saving the lives from this civil war.
There's a famous story of Côte d'Ivoire. I think Didier Drogba and Yaya Touré's team, they literally stopped the war from happening in their country. Like, and this isn't to, be political. It's just these countries have weak institutions. And in some places, the football team, the football team is their strongest institution because of the players, because of how strong some of their personalities are, the force of will to play, the importance of football. It's actually something that's really important and interesting is everything might be going wrong in these countries, but they will play and they will find a way, and it'll be this respite where everything stops. We're doing the fucking Ghana-Nigeria game. And then when you're done, you can go back to where all the fucking crazy shit that goes on, whatever. I mean, but it is not unusual for these countries' FAs to steal all the money, to not book flights, to take guys by bus, to have stadiums that are falling apart. There's just a lot of really unfortunate graft that happens, and it sucks. And football as a governing body has problems, but I think the thing to praise is the players, right? The players are the ones who do put these things together. The players are the ones who'll speak out and have to be the ones on the microphone. And, I want Naby Keita to get out of there, and hopefully we'll see him playing Liverpool soon.
He'll be underperforming back on Merseyside soon. Hopefully
they need him. They need him badly, right?
Yeah, but
it's scary for them because they didn't have a transfer window. We gave them a D, and without him, they're really in trouble.
Yeah. So you bring up the importance of the players and going back to how much responsibility they feel personally to go be a part of this. It is a calling to them. and they feel like just all this patriotism and all the opportunity, right? Not the obligation, the
And to fly
opportunity.
the flag, right? You see
Yes, of
a lot of the
course.
African players, they wear the red, gold, and green for whatever country they are.
Yeah,
Many
yeah.
of them have red, gold, and green.
But there's got to be a better way, because the way that teams, Premier League teams, or club teams around the world, I suppose, the way that they decide to take on all of the risk, essentially, right? And it's not about my player getting stuck in a military coup. It's not about my player getting COVID or something along those lines. It's about normal injuries that could happen, right? Anything. So the amount of time and just the wear and tear. Let's say everything goes perfectly fine, and Gio Celso and Cristian Romero play 3 games for Argentina in the span of 10-15 days. They fly from Argentina back to London.
That's a quick flight. A good, it's got to be what, 12
17 hours? Yeah,
Yeah,
right. So, I mean, it's just so much to undertake
I'm sure
in a short amount
Messi
of time.
and the Qataris are like, Messi just goes, "We've got to fly."
I'm sure. And he gets there in 20 minutes. But that's not the point I'm making, right? Like, they do this. How many times would you say a year? September, October, January, March. I think that's the last one. And then one in April. There's either 4 or 5 times where they break up the season for 2 weeks at a time. And now compare that to the NHL for a second, and going into an Olympic year where the players reportedly are going to go to Beijing, which is super exciting. They have a 2-week hole in their schedule, which is standard practice overseas. But the NHL is like, this is a big deal for us. John Tavares in 2014, the best player on the New York Islanders, blew his knee out, had a horrible knee injury, out for the season. So the New York Islanders take on all the risk there. Now, that happens once every 4 years. It's a tremendous event. I understand. And that's not necessarily the problem. By the way, it's going to happen next year with the World Cup. So we'll get into that.
In the middle of the season. That's
in the middle of the season.
Suck.
And it's not going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be 6 weeks. So anyway, I digress. But the point that I'm making is that if you made, that's 5 times where you basically have a 2-week break. It's 10 weeks, 2.5 months, right? Man, that feels like its own separate season to me. Why would you? I understand that you want the time of year where everybody's lifting the trophies to be in May and not in like February and April and March. So I get that. You could start the season later instead of in August. There's a million ways you can cut this, but effectively what I'm getting at here is the fact that this is so obtusely European that they allow this to happen. And frankly, FIFA as a governing body in general is just so lazy with it, right? Because we saw the Euros, and anytime there's a big international tournament, we saw how much the world gets behind it, right? Like the Euros were more televised here than most events that were happening in the United States in the summer, right? Certainly more than MLS. So you've got all of these interesting storylines and parts. The other thing is that these players go in for 2 weeks at a time. They all know each other. They're all compatriots, and they played for the country before. But gosh, they go to play with their team and then they come back. And then they play with their team for 2 months and then they come back again. So what I'm getting at is you have all of the benefits of a short season, international season, which could be any part of the calendar you want. I really don't care. But if you had the opportunity to say that the leagues operate for, what is it? It's 10 months out of the year right now, roughly.
It's probably too much, honestly.
It's definitely too much. 8 months out of the year, you get a week and a half, 2-week break, and then you do all of the internationals the same way you generally do in the summer, except that basically becomes, instead of a month, it's 6 to 7 weeks, maybe more than that, right? And then you stop for another week and a half, and then you get back into the,
The issue you're going to have is you're taking on a Eurocentric view, and South America has their breaks. They have the season at a different time. There's the South American schedule. Sure. It's completely different because they're winter. They're in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah. The timing of everything. The other issue is it's just money. Like they could play less. They're just playing more. Like I think, was it him and Son? Did he play 80 games one season?
And he's got to do
75 maybe?
Something like that. And he has to do military time. Or no, he got out of that.
Got out of that. But he's got to fly to Korea.
Yeah, exactly. It's the honestly the same distance in the opposite direction, roughly. And so you've got him coming in, and all of the players. It serves to make the product everywhere better. If you were to say, go play for 2 months, but stay here for 8.
Yeah, I don't know the right answer. I almost feel like there's got to be like a median place where It doesn't have to be at home. But the thing is that these games are the way these countries make money. Like Mexico never plays in Mexico; they play in the U.S. to make money.
Yep.
Or Brazil never plays
friendlies.
in Brazil; they'll play in Qatar because they're a brand that's big and they just try and generate revenue. And that's the part that's a little bit
not the qualifiers, but the
right,
friendly
but just
games.
in general, the kind of playing how much they play.
Mm-hmm.
Like there should never be a break if there isn't a qualifier ever. Like no friendlies.
Agreed.
Out, done. Get rid of all that shit.
But that's the thing is that you don't need friendlies at that point. If you do it in this schedule, you play basically the same amount of games. Maybe losing one per team. I think
in a World Cup year, if you played every game, I think the most they play is like 16 total games extra.
Sure.
Which is like a whole Champions League cycle.
But imagine if the World Cup qualifying takes place, and we're talking about a standard, not a Qatari year, a standard year where the World Cup starts in June and runs to middle of July. And with the expanded field coming up probably early August, but I digress. Instead of the Premier League and the European leagues, and I understand the Southern Hemisphere and South America may be an issue here, so we'll get back to that in a second. It's a good point.
Clausura and Apertura.
Instead of the Champions League final being the first week of June, it is the third week of April, let's say. I don't know. I mean, I'm making this up, but you get the point.
Yeah.
And then you have your friendlies, your World Cup warm-up games, if you will, and then you walk right into the World Cup. Because last year, we already know who's playing. Right.
What I don't understand. Sorry, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe this is where you're driving at and I'm not understanding. Why not just do like the qualifiers right into the World Cup?
Well,
that
you
way
could
teams
do
are
that.
like, oh my God, they made it. And then they're in it.
You could do that, but you
make
also,
it like a real playoff instead of waiting a year.
No, you're still going to need it a year before, because what are you playing the year before that? Right. So effectively think of it in, let's say, again, the World Cup in 2022 in the summer. You're playing the World Cup qualifiers in the international season right now, essentially, right? Yeah. And you're playing the Copa America or the Gold Cup the year before. And I'm not sure what the first piece on this wheel is, like, but it's basically
how do they just not make them the same thing? Like, why can't the Copa just be the qualifier? You know what I mean? Like,
no, because then you're getting into you're cutting out too many games and cutting out too much revenue, and I understand that. But so that's what I'm saying is that there's four sides on this. It's I don't know. I think the first one might be Oh no, I'm sorry. It's two stages of the World Cup qualifying, because you basically have the larger games, which, by the way, England should never be playing Moldova or whoever the fuck Andorra. They beat the piss out of this weekend. They played a C lineup and they were favored by 4.5 goals. And you know what? They didn't cover. But they won 4-0. But it was never, ever in doubt. And you need to find a better way. Maybe you can't at this stage because you've sort of whittled through all those shittier countries. But maybe you can't.
There were much less countries, and you just kind of there's a lot of self-determination stuff, and it gets very political. Like a soccer team is a big deal, right? Like
no, I know. Like, but what I'm saying is
why does Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland have teams? They shouldn't. It's Great Britain.
You talked about this. It's because England was like, they're coming with us. But
we want 4 votes.
It's for the votes. I was going to say. I know. But so the first year is like the wider funnel. Everybody gets a game sort of World Cup qualifying. You whittle that down. The second year is the Euros, Copa America, Gold Cup, whatever. The third year is where we are right now, which is it's not the hex anymore. It's like the quin something or whatever.
It's an octagonal.
The octagonal. Thank you.
I do want to bring up
the hex.
They're actually talking about doing World Cup every 2 years now.
Then you get rid of the Euros.
UEFA's like, no, you can't do that. They just want to. They need more sports. They need more sports. Is their problem.
Right.
And the Olympics is kind of dying, which is weird. Maybe they're trying to like grab the Olympic torch and be like, you know what? You guys suck.
Never understood. So for those that don't know, the Olympic tournament is a U23 tournament, and you can have 3 exemptions. So you can have 3 players, right? So effectively France, let's just pretend for a second, could have Pogba, Mbappe, and take your pick, Benzema or whoever, and a bunch of kids. It's so strange. So there's your answer. Realistically, they don't get that money. The IOC gets that money. That's why you'll never have it. But I mean, I always wondered, because the women's side is just straight games.
Well, they want it. They want more, right? They don't have any under or over. I think it makes more sense for the women to have the World Cup every 2 years because that's really they need to play more, right? They need to have more competition.
Sort of, sure. But then you have an Olympics or a World Cup pretty much every year. No,
Yeah.
No, you don't. Sorry. Because it would be 3 out of 4 years you have an Olympics or a World Cup.
And
it's
the
like,
thing that's really
it waters it down.
I think the thing that's really frustrating is, and this isn't fair, and I get it, it's just like UEFA's tournaments are as good as, like we just saw it in the Euro. That was real World Cup light type shit. Or maybe
the thing about that
just in the Copa too a little bit, but
hold on. Do you want to see Denmark or do you want to see Panama? Do you want to see the Ukraine or do you want to see South Korea, even with Sonny, right? Like, so that's the problem, is that the depth of quality in UEFA, in UEFA is so strong. And
there's a guy
they could have their
on
own
every
tournament,
team.
and they do.
And it's good.
So,
and same with the Champions League. All this is where the inequity comes in. Like they're trying to like make money and make all these things for all these other countries, and it's just like, who wins the same team wins like 5 things. Like Mexico wins the Gold Cup, US wins the Gold Cup. Like it's not always Germany and not always Italy, even though it was this time. But anyway, that was kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know what to do at international. I mean, I guess like to me, it's so hard. Maybe this is a good segue into something sort of random. It's so hard to get out of our American brains, right? We're just like, why don't you have a playoffs and a set schedule that doesn't fucking change all the time, so everyone knows when it is, and then plan the Super Bowl around a country that people know what it is and we know who's going to be in it. Like, let's do it that way. Let's have playoffs. Let's do it. How about you mix the Champions League with the whole thing and it's all divisions, one thing? How about that?
Well, we talked about it on the show a while ago. Like, we're like, man, speaking of the seasons, right? Like, why wouldn't you just have the season be condensed, and then instead of having the Champions League run parallel with it, intertwined, it actually runs
it at the
separately at the end. God, that would be so much cooler, because it's the Champions League. The way that it relates to the domestic leagues is very similar to how the international breaks work, right? It's 2 games.
It's weird.
It's a game, and then 6 weeks go by.
Yeah,
it's a game,
instead of just play midweek regular season games, condense the season to like April, and then just have a whole Champions League season at the end.
And then the internationals, and then the Premier League starts, or the domestic league starts back up.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing.
It would be round the clock, amazing football.
I think what would happen is it would kill the importance of your domestic leagues.
I think it might. Same way that
because nobody Serie A would just be like, oh, it's over and our season's over. Like some teams, if you were out early of the Champions League.
But wait a minute. Counterpoint. Why doesn't that happen already to the FA Cup? Why doesn't that happen to, frankly, the Carabao Cup? Right?
Because they don't matter. People are already upset with them. People don't care about
not the FA Cup, because the depth of quality. Do you think it does? Do you think it doesn't matter to Leicester? You think it didn't matter to Tottenham last year?
It mattered. No, that stuff matters.
So that's what I'm saying. Right. Of course. And City, by the way, the Premier League doesn't matter to them anymore. Okay, so like,
bite your tongue, boy.
No, it matters. That's bullshit. Okay,
it matters to me.
If they could win 10 Premier Leagues or 1 Champions League, which one do you think they would take?
10 Premier Leagues and 1 Champions League.
No, you don't get to pick one. I'm telling you, a Champions League trophy is so elusive to them right now. This is the problem.
It's the one we don't have. I get it. It's in a different thing. Yeah.
They themselves are in their own stratosphere, as seen by the the arguments in the transfer window about Kane.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point where like I don't think it would diminish anything. You might be right. Over time, it may.
Yeah.
Not any more or less than it already has. But I think that if that's the case, then fuck you, Man City. Like, get lost. You know what? You're competing in it, and if you couldn't be bothered, throw your C team out there, and if you win, you win. If you don't, you don't.
You and I both know that Europeans they less loathe change. They just will be like, this is the end of.
Oh, this is inherently American, and you all should die. It would be almost. It wouldn't be seen exactly as the same as the Super League, because it actually is promoting more football, and it's promoting. It's like I said, it's promoting smaller teams.
I mean, listen, think about this, right? The English are actually pretty okay with change. In Germany, they're still fighting about the fact that the game is on Monday night, or that
Yeah.
the games are not all at 3:00 on Saturday. And if there's a game that's not on 3:00 on Saturday, they fucking riot and get mad. Like,
Yeah.
or they're mad at Red Bull Leipzig because it's a corporately owned team.
Because they're sidestepping the rules. Yeah.
Like, dude, Germans, take it
RB
easy.
Leipzig.
But they're totally fine with Bayern Munich winning every year and Bayern Munich buying the 3 best players and the
whole
coach of their
league is a feeder system.
Yeah,
the whole league is a feeder system,
and they're fine with it. Anyway, we have to talk about somebody we care and love a lot, and that's Joe at Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. He has helped Mike as he gets closer and closer and closer to his wedding.
Yeah,
he
we're
has
getting
the
there.
top clicking, and he's been saving money so that he can go on a decent honeymoon somewhere where they take Floridians who are right wingers. I think you might have to go to Guinea and deal with.
We're gonna sort it out. Yeah, I've got my dictator hat.
yeah. But Joe would help him find the flight. Might find him some lawyering up if he needs to, and he needs to get out of the country.
No. I've hired a militia.
Maybe a C-140 to get out, like Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So
no,
Joe from Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. He doesn't really help you with Afghanistan, but he does help you find money when you're in trouble. And like Mike will be if he's stuck in Guinea on his honeymoon, like Naby Keita. Now, this is a mixed up way, but you can get your help from Joe at www.attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com, and he will help you out for sure. And so speaking of for sure that needing help, we have the United States men's national team.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a great segue. I was going to say, I think I'm staying stateside for a little while, but I wish I wasn't because the national team here is in trouble again.
God.
By the way, this is a special segment of Mike's Best Bets that I did not publicize before the show, before the game, I should say. But I happened to notice that USA winning 1-0 was plus 450. Like, this is like a half hour before kickoff. And I was like, that's awfully interesting because they don't seem to be scoring much, but Canada stinks. I think I'm going to throw some shekels on 1-0 to the Americans. And so the first half is a slog. It honestly felt like Canada looked like they looked almost like a West Brom or a Burnley. But the interesting thing is that or actually a Mourinho Spurs is probably pretty fair because they had the best player on the field in Alphonso Davies. And Kyle Larin, who's no joke, even though I was ripping on him on Twitter, he missed like 4 sitters. He stinks. He's an Orlando City alum.
No, but he does play at a top league. He plays.
He does. He plays.
He
plays for Galatasaray. But so they should have had 3 or 4 in the first half, arguably Canada, and just on the break, right? They had like 10% possession. I'm lying. They had like 25-30, but it was very much one-way traffic. And the U.S. playing without Weston McKennie, who broke team rules. Always love to hear that. And Gio Reyna, who has like a hamstring injury, I believe. He's not going to play in the next game on Wednesday either. So not a great U.S. lineup. Josh Sargent didn't start. He started the game in El Salvador, which they went scoreless, which was horrible to watch. But they get a goal around the 60th minute or so. I actually had to. It was a build up after a foul. Pulisic hits, I forget who, out left and plays it in, and it was a very nicely taken goal.
It's Robinson who I think plays that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Anthony Robinson. And so 1-0 to the Americans. Mike's feeling pretty good. And I drove to the airport to pick up Jessica from her 900th trip this fucking last 6 weeks. And by the time I got out of like the airport, whatever, and I got service back, it was 1-1. So I did not see the Canada equalizer, but I was alerted to the fact that it was our friend Kyle Larin here in Orlando. So I was a little perturbed about that. They did not end up getting anything else out of the game, and it finished 1-1. And now the U.S. is sitting here. In the first 2 games, they have 2 draws. And if you draw in El Salvador, fine. But you have to win your games at home, especially Canada's an up-and-coming team. They're not great, but they can nick a result, and that's exactly what happened here. So
I mean, they had basically Davies in the freaking for lack of a better word, in the Gareth Bale role, right? Like,
Yes.
it's just like, get it out to Davies and go skin people, which is what he did. He was awesome until he came off.
He was great. So the U.S., look, it's very early. It's very early. They're not in trouble yet, but they're not in trouble, because that's a game you win if you have intentions of going to Qatar. And
it was just this ponderous, slow, like, I just saw John Brooks on the ball looking up all the time. Just like, where is everybody? Where's Tyler Adams? Where's, we still don't have, I might be spoiled by watching City or watching Premier League.
You most certainly are.
Slow, just like, oh my God. Do you guys know where you're going next? Like, what is happening? It kind of feels Arsenal-y, right? Like, this kind of like, what?
No, because nobody gives Arsenal 75% of the ball. But that was sort of the problem.
They wouldn't score anyway.
That was sort of the problem, is that Canada basically, like I said, played very Mourinho-esque. And they're like, go ahead, keep it. We don't want it. See what you can do.
You can't break us down.
Right. And so, no, they didn't have that player. And having a McKinney, having a Reina on the field certainly helps.
Oh, Reina would have helped.
Yeah. But, I mean,
McKinney,
it's
not so much.
Defensive. He's a nonetheless, there was no cohesion, like you said, and there was no ability to kind of, pick the lock. They did off of kind of a broken play.
You sort of see Pulisic trying. He still looks like it's just not athletic enough. Like, I'm sorry that you're 5'7" and 140 pounds, but that's just, it's in Nashville, and you're just weak. Like, you can't do it. Like,
I don't know that it's, listen, so much as his very, very boyish build. It's just, he's got no support. He did get it on that goal. He found the open man. He got it to Robinson. Thank you for that reminder. But breaking down, and look, if a team is going to play, if Canada were to play the game, they would have got both.
They would lose. Yeah.
And so I'm not giving them shit. Like, they had a great strategy.
They were good.
They were
had
smart.
Better chances. They should have won.
That's what I mean. That's why they weren't good, right? They were smart. Yeah. They weren't good. But yeah, it's just, you wonder where the creativity is going to flow from this U.S. team. What we learned this summer was that actually it's not all that bad from a depth perspective. Matthew Hoppe was nowhere to be found in this game. So
why?
I don't know. And he by the way, really one of the underrated storylines from a U.S. point of view of the end of the transfer window is that he went to Mallorca in Spain, which is owned by Kyle Martino and Steve Nash. So obviously Steve Nash Canadian and Stu Holden. Steve Nash is Canadian, but that's basically a let's keep it all in the family sort of thing with the U.S. men's national team.
They're 2 wins. Like, if they get 2 wins on the bounce, no one will worry about anything. I mean, it is still 12 games to go. It's a lot. There are
still 12 games to go. There's a lot of
still make it, but they're better than Canada, and they should make it. But they lack cohesion. They are young. This is a young team. Mm-hmm. There's no leaders, and like. Do I need to fucking see Josie Altidore? Is that really?
No. We're not doing that again. But I think I saw
really need to see Michael Bradley. Does he really need to be there?
On something, it was a graphic they showed during the game. They showed Greg Berhalter, and it said that he has 14 World Cup qualifiers under his belt, essentially, as a player.
Yeah. And
the entire team had 8. And I think of that, Pulisic probably had 5 of them. So, like you said, extremely young team. But based off of this summer, it's difficult because the excitement around the U.S. men's national team has started to build again. And with that excitement comes expectation. Now, we're not asking for a lot here. We're asking you to finish finish in one of the top 3 places in CONCACAF, which means be better than Trinidad and Tobago, little sore subject, be better than Canada, be better than Panama, right? Basically, if Costa Rica and Mexico are better than you, that's still okay. That is where we're at here, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and I don't like Berhalter. I don't
mind him.
I don't trust these American coaches. I don't think that they have the right mentality. I don't think that they ask enough of the players. I don't give me fucking Mancini. He literally revolutionized City. He literally revolutionized Italy.
Well,
he took Italy and he fucking won them the goddamn Euro
after missing the World Cup. After missing the World Cup, you can't give too much credit to a coach who went to Man City and had unlimited funds. You can't give too much credit who went to Italy and had all this talent to pick from. I understand that it was a changing of the guard. It was a change. Okay, but if you have an embarrassment of riches like Italy,
and the best thing is Mancini would just be like, "This country's terrible. You guys are fucking awful, and I hate
guess
you."
who did that? By the way, Jurgen Klinsmann brought in John Brooks. He brought in Jermaine Jones. So all these players who are internationals. There's a couple of players on the team that I'm blanking on them now, but like he was, born in Liberia, and actually I think that's Alphonso Davies. Actually,
No,
and
the U.S. men's national team. There's a lot of there. It's not as international as it was. There's no like, well, Dest is Dutch and had a choice. Robinson is very, very English, but his dad is American. He's proud of it, but he's English. Pulisic, we know. Adams, no. Leggett, Acosta, no. That group is fine.
Right,
but it was just weird. It's just weird. They I don't even.
You're right.
Know
they're disjointed though.
Who the fuck was Sibasachu? I never even heard of him.
I think that was his first cap.
Okay. Oh, he plays in Switzerland. Oh, he plays European. But he's Stade Reims.
You're taking a lot of the players who are American and have some American descent or eligibility or whatever, who Dest is a good example, would never get into the Dutch team. So he's like, fuck it, I'm American now. And that's really where the pool we're picking from relative to Italy.
It's still, but it's still.
Although Jorginho did do that, right? Jorginho's like, I'm not Brazilian anymore, I guess.
He's still just not. It's just lack of creativity, lack of cohesion. It's just,
I agree.
And then it's hot and weird and terrible.
But it's not. I can't put that on the coaches yet. That's all I'm saying.
My home country, we can put it on the coach. My family, the French national team. Is it the most talented team in the world? From depth perception? Yes. Has Deschamps won the World Cup? Yes. But they are on a streak of 5 draws in a row, and the knives are out. I think there's a little bit of a Yogi Low thing going on. And I think one of the things that people want from this French team is take the handbrake off, go play. Mm-hmm. And they still are defensive and they still play deep. And it's very indicative of French football, which is a very defensive league. Don't think about PSG, but Lille won the league by not giving up any fucking goals. And that's how they do things. And that's just the way they play. They sort of like Mbappe and Benzema, they go do stuff, but it's not by plan. It's just like, go make something happen. And, it is a worry for France. I don't think they have to be worried. They'll make the World Cup. It's not a problem, but it is a concern for France. I think if they blow more games, they'll make the World Cup, but then is anyone going to trust Deschamps?
Okay. Well,
it's very hard to win 2 in a row.
Looking at this group, first of all, they have 3 draws, but they had the 2 wins in the bank already. So that's important to note.
They're fine.
They're in first place in the group by 4 points, with Finland and the Ukraine behind them. They have Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Kazakhstan. Those are 2 teams, not 3. And those are the rounding out. Those are the collect your points here, right? Everybody's likely going to collect their points. It sounds like they've actually drawn each other twice, but other than that, so
Bosnia-Herzegovina is not terrible, and France drew with them already.
Right. So yeah, that's a good point. However,
there's nobody there who's going to beat them, right? Like,
there's nobody there who's going to beat them.
Nobody has any wins. It's just like, I don't know what the hell the Ukraine.
Finland has 1, which I would assume is over Kazakhstan, probably. But the point I'm making is they likely will not go near the unmentionable missing of the 2022 World Cup.
They can't. It's almost impossible.
It's almost impossible. But as I mentioned, they have an embarrassment of riches to the point where Didier Deschamps could, he could have Lloris at striker. He could have Pogba in net. Like, it doesn't matter, right? They'll be fine. But there's a little bit of a concern in the sense that they have, they have had the draws sort of in a row. They did crash out of the Euros.
That was bad.
in an unspectacular fashion, right?
It was bad. It was really bad.
And you did see big names. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, you saw big names, not just the United States. They're fucking nothing compared to this. Chile, Netherlands, and Euro 2021 champions Italy missing the World Cup. So they don't seem to be in trouble because, and I don't know if this is the last round of qualifying or not.
No, they got if it's,
yeah. Well, that's the question I have then. If they whittle the groups down from here.
No,
and
this is it. No, top 2 in. That's it.
Top 2 in, then okay, never mind. They we'll see. But I think right now they're as much as they should be concerned with their style of play and as it pertains to going far in the World Cup in Qatar, I don't believe that it's an issue that they'll be here.
Well, Mike,
but it would be funny to watch you freak out if they do. So,
I wouldn't get too. I would find another team. I'd be like, Denmark, I love you, Damsgaard. Well, we have a big Thursday coming back. The Premier League will return.
Thank
we
God.
will have our best bets, and we will go through the schedule, and we will talk about the football. I believe does your team play somebody good? Don't you?
My team plays Crystal Palace in the first game of the weekend, 7:30 on Saturday Eastern time.
What is my team playing? Nobody
Who knows.
All eyes will be on Arsenal versus Norwich.
Yeah, we'll get into all of it on Thursday.
That will be the massive one. And then, this is the big one. This is the Bettors Derby. This is Brighton Brentford. I don't know where my allegiances will lie.
I have not looked at the slate all that much yet, but we will be ready for Thursday. I'm excited to have it back in my life.
Yeah, thank God,
because now what we've got
we literally talked about draws. We talked about foods.
Thank you for getting to this point in the show with us. But what we will have is a very exciting Premier League Saturday into college football Saturday, and then Premier League Sunday into NFL Sunday. So for the degenerates out there, buckle up, friends. It's about to get a lot more fun, and hopefully you haven't put anything on the mortgage yet.
Okay. All right, Mike.
Let's get out of here.
Okay, that was the Squeaky Bum Time podcast with Mike Salerno and Laurent Cortines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. Still, we record on Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple, please rate and review the show so we can reach more people like you. If you listen to this one, you are a diehard. So thank you.
And we love you.